Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Permanent Values, Part 7. Only those who seek guidance will receive it. These are the references, and this is our contact in case there is any question, query regarding this presentation or any of our previous presentations. Some general points in relation to permanent values. Having looked at some permanent values, we can observe that these are interlinked, and by understanding them, we are able to differentiate between the two systems, i.e., the one based on relative values which are in play in man-made systems, and the system based on deen which seeks guidance exclusively from the Quran for the good of the whole of mankind. We have also seen that the human intellect which becomes guided by these permanent values acquires a higher eminence from where it can clearly observe the two systems and their details from the corrective perspective. However, we can also see that those who are immersed in the man-made systems cannot visualize the system of deen, and this means they cannot have that developed self based on these values which is needed for the system of deen. What happens is that we get used to the man-made system and we think this is the reality, and particularly if we are the beneficiaries and we cannot see outside the man-made system. For those human beings who wish to dedicate themselves for the cause of deen, they need to understand that no system in the world can take shape and come to the fore without determination, patience, and total conviction in the cause. And this is important for us on this platform, that we have to be determined on this path and also very patient, not to be distracted, because the things take shape slowly, because the first stage is to understand the system in all its aspects. We witness this under the man-made systems, how people who come to power pursue their goals ruthlessly. The Quran demands absolute conviction in the cause of Allah through willing acceptance of Iman, and by then acquiring precisely that self which is clearly signposted within its folds. So the methods which people use under the man-made systems and the path they follow, we simply cannot follow that method and that path under the system of deen. The system of deen has to follow the permanent values and Sirat al-Mustaqim as defined in the Quran. And it requires a particular kind. We know it requires a moment self which has been developed through solid deeds. Now, what I've done over here is that I have just flashed the whole slide. So if anyone wishes to look at a particular value or wants to know all these values, then they can freeze this frame and look at it. So I will not go through it individually. And these were covered in part 1 and part 2. And this is the same, the next slide, part 3, part 4, and 5, where we covered the next 15 values, and we can freeze the frame and look at these. Permanent values which are covered in part 6 and today, that is part 7. The condition of a people can only change when their psyche changes. No yatim and miskeen in the world. These two values we covered in our previous presentation. And today we will cover this one, only those receive guidance who seek it. Since the permanent value is related to human guidance, it will help to watch the presentation covering verses 5 to 6 under Surah Al-Fatiha. We covered it in fair amount of detail under that presentation, where guidance is covered in detail. Human life offers various options. We make choices, and these then impact our self and its growth. I've drawn this schematic just to create some color in our presentation. These are all human beings who are collected for some reason, but at the same time, they do not lose their individuality. All of them possess a self. And they are in the physical domain. Our life presents choices. So whatever we do in our life as we live our finite life on this planet, we always have some kind of choices before us. And these choices can be just two or could be more than two. But fact is that we have to make decisions. The only thing is, if we follow one path, for example, on the left, then the consequences will be exactly those which are related to this path. And if we are following the path to the right, then the consequences will be those which are associated with that path. So while we have a choice to follow a particular path, we do not have a choice to alter the effects of following that particular path. What kind of a self we desire, and whatever we do in life that affects our self. And when we talk of self, that is our inner cognitive abilities, that is our inner psyche is affected. Life is a matter of choices, and every choice you make makes you. And it's interesting, a lot of people who were thinking type, they have figured it out that whatever we do in life, we become like that. I believe that we are solely responsible for our choices, and we have to accept the consequences of every deed, word, and thought throughout our lifetime. And if you don't know where you are going, any road will get you there. So we need to have a clear aim in life. And Quran gives us that clear aim in life, that you should develop yourself so that your hereafter in this life, as well as in the life of the hereafter, becomes better and better with the passage of time. And I've quoted just one verse over here. وَوَالَّذِي خَلَقَكُمْ فَمِنْكُمْ كَافِرٌ وَمِنْكُمْ مُؤْمِنٌ وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. It is He who has created you, and of you some are mu'min, that is by choice they have become mu'mineen, and some are kafir who do not wish to become mu'min, and Allah sees well all that you do. We have covered aspects of this at the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah. We can go through those presentations. Now the first slide on this permanent value. Unlike animals, man is provided with the traits of choice and intent. Hence, he needs guidance in this physical life, as his decisions in life impact his own self as well as those with whom he interacts. And this is an observed phenomena. We see the evidence of this every day. Within our families, we interact. Then once we go to our jobs, we interact. Then if we go to the market, we interact with others. And then nations also interact with each other. Man possesses desires and emotions on which he acts using his intellect, and he is provided with the choice to either follow his unbridled desires, emotions, and intellect, or he has the choice to bring all of these under the guidance of the Quranic value system. And obviously, he has to know this guidance system, Quranic value system, provided he knows about it. So over here, there's a choice first, whether he wants to know it, and then whether he wishes to follow it. Man is also informed that whatever choices he makes in this life, the outcomes of these choices will affect the body as well as his self. The human self has been covered as a permanent value. The law covering this aspect is called the law of requital of Allah. All human deeds, whether individual or collective, simply cannot escape the grip of this divine law. We have gone through this many times before, that this law of requital is actually works for our benefit. Because once we become conscious of our thoughts and deeds, then we only take those decisions which have good effects for us, which are good for us, and we avoid the pitfalls of life. And as a result, our life on this planet becomes nice, easy, and pleasant. The purpose of human creation is for a supreme aim, i.e., while his physical body is destined to meet physical death and remains behind on this planet, his self, which consists of I, i.e., he himself proceeds onwards to the next stage of his journey of life. For this continuation of the journey of his I, he is provided with guidance so that through his own choice and intent, he can enable himself to traverse further stages of evolution at the self's level in the life of the hereafter. So everything of an individual revolves around his own sense of identity, which is called I. And we know that our I does not change as we age, because our thoughts don't age. While our brain is aging, our thoughts do not age. So if this I continues like that, that means logically, even if we die, this I should continue beyond it if it gets another medium to express itself. This is something very rational and based on evidence within our own self. But we have to concentrate a bit on this and start to think on those lines. Acceptance of Iman is a prerequisite to guidance. We have seen that Allah relates many actions of man towards himself. And in the domain of religion, one often hears that Allah both guides towards Iman and also that Allah misguides whoever he wishes. Now, this second part is a wrong one because Allah does not misguide anyone. We misguide our own self. The only thing is that Allah guides those towards Iman who wish to be guided. So it is according to laws of Allah. This belief is against the Quran, and this issue has been discussed in detail in the book titled The Book of Destiny by Allama Pervez. This world is an arena for man to use his choice and intent as he wishes without any compulsion from outside. And Quran says, Amalu ma shaytum innahu bima ta'maluna basir. Do whatever you wish to do. Verily he sees all that you do. And it's very important because over here word used is shaytum, that it is your choice. It is your will. It is your wish. Whichever path you wish to take, it will bear the consequences of what you do. And over here then beautifully it is elaborated by the Quran, Innahu bima ta'maluna basir, that Allah will make sure that whatever you do, that will bear results, that will bear its effects. Man is given total freedom to use his choice and to then live by the outcomes of these choices. This freedom is curtailed by the man-made systems. So the problems which we see within the man-made systems is because of the adverse effects of the system itself, because this system subjugates human beings. This system actually takes away human choices. It reduces the sphere of choices of human beings, whereas Allah has given total freedom to man as far as this world is concerned and left it to man. And Allah never ever takes away his choice during this period from beginning to the end. So this thing we should keep in mind, that it is the man-made system which reduces human choices. This is an evidence-based fact, and we see in the world around us that secular minds act on this 100% and thus succeed materially in their respective fields of actions. Because if we do not understand that we are fully free to make our own choices, then that means any belief system which curtails our choices is detriment to our making choices. And we have seen it in the secular world. The secular minds think that the life will end with death, so they exploit the world to its maximum, and they exploit not only the resources, but they also exploit other human beings. Despite the fact that Wahi was being received by the messenger, he accepted Iman in it through his own volition. And Quran says, وَقُلْ amantu bima anzalallahu min kitabin, and say, I accept Iman in the book which Allah has sent down. Some people have this impression as if the messenger was guided without him making any choice. Quran makes it clear that Wahi has nothing to do with his choice. He was making his own choice. Wahi he received, he understood it, and after understanding it, he accepted it, and then he passed it on to others. And our position is also similar, that we have seen the Quran, we have gone through it, we have read it, we have understood it, and then we have made a choice freely whether we wish to follow it or not. In another place, Quran says, Amana Rasool bima unzila alayhi min rabbihi wal mu'minun. Very powerful and factual verse which states that the messenger accepts Iman in that Wahi, the Quran, which is coming to him as an external reality. And then Mu'mineen also accept it after they read through the Quran and listen it from the messenger's side. The messenger accepts Iman in what is sent down towards him from his Rabb. And that is the beauty of it. It is from Rabb. So this message is coming for implementing Rububiyat of Allah. That is why Quran says, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, because Allah is the Rabb of whole of mankind. As do Mu'mineen, each one accepts Iman in Allah. Now over here, this slide will very briefly say what guidance means. That is the root of this word. The basic meaning of Hudan is prominence and becoming brighter, to be in the forefront and treading in front of others. Therefore, being bright, the day is called Hudan, and Hadiyatan is that rock which has emerged from the water and is visible from a long distance away. So according to the Quran, the Hadayat will be which cannot be missed. It is very clear, very bright, and it will guide to that objective, that destination about which it mentions right from beginning to the end. Ibn Faris is quoted as saying that it has two fundamental meanings: to move in front in order to guide on the path, i.e. a guide should know the direction himself. So Quran knows what guidance is required by man, and if we follow it, then it will take us there where we are supposed to go. To send a donation and a gift. The meaning of Hadaya is to make the path recognizable, make it perspicuous, provide guidance. The foundation of Deen is on this fundamental reality that the human intellect can neither devise these values nor can discover these permanent values at its own, according to which the human life can reach its intended destination. These are made available from the direction of Allah, now preserved in the Quran. The human intellect needs these permanent values for its guidance, just as we need sunlight to see clearly. And Quran calls itself Nur, that is light. What does it mean to have guidance? In relation to verse Ihdina Sirat al-Mustaqim, which we covered under Surah Al-Fatiha, show us the straight path. The first word in this verse is Ihdina, from which the aim is to seek guidance. The word guidance has appeared in the Quran in different forms with great frequency and wide-ranging meanings. This is because there is a line of demarcation between guidance and misguidance, truth and falsehood, Iman and Kufr. Hence, it is vital to understand its correct meaning. In the exposition of Rabbil Alameen, it has been stated that the meaning of Rububiyat is to take a thing from the point of its beginning gradually towards its completion by continuously providing nourishment. And we can see the examples of it all around us. For example, a fruit-bearing tree will grow from a single seed, then grow into a tree, and then will bear fruit. If it does not bear fruit, that means that tree hasn't fulfilled its aim for which it has been created. And the same goes for human beings, that the Quran tells us that what is our destination, and our destination is to develop ourselves and to create the system of Deen in this world, that is, create a better world than the man-made system, and then with that developed self go on to the next life and keep evolving further through various stages. According to this program, the things of the universe will have to undertake a journey. They will have to follow a particular direction, and this path will also be one which is designated by Allah Himself. Because by following any path other than the one designated and defined by Him, this aim cannot be achieved. This mode of directing is called guidance. For this, the condition is that this guidance is clear, perspicuous, radiant, and tangible. And all these aspects are present in the guidance of the Quran. This characteristic is implicit within the meaning of this root itself. Conjectural, speculative, doubtful, suspicious, vague guidance cannot be called divine guidance. And this is why Quran removes doubts and suspicions. And right at the beginning it says, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ, that there is no raib in it. All kinds of raibs disappear. This guidance has been endowed to all things of the universe from Allah. In Surah Al-Ala, it is stated that Rabb is who has created and further given order and proportion, who has ordained laws and granted guidance. Next slide is, the Quran makes it clear, guidance comes to those who seek it, and this is based on evidence. We have seen that the messenger is informed regarding his own request for guidance, and we have gone through this aspect previously. وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًا فَهَدَى, we found you wandering, looking for guidance, and we gave you guidance. This means that we need to go through a process of searching for some purpose of life and then looking at various options available to us. For this, the Quran offers its service and tells us, and we have gone through this verse as well previously, La ikraha fid din, qad tabayyana rushdu min al-ghayy, wa man yakfur bit-taghut wa yu'min billah. There is no compulsion in deen. The paths of right and wrong are shown clearly. Whoever rejects taghut, and taghut means the man-made systems. All man-made systems come under this because they do not follow the permanent values. They follow man-made laws and accepts iman in Allah. So this rejection, this dissatisfaction with the man-made system is the starting point for anyone to look for guidance. The duty of the messenger is to communicate the guidance, not to compel to follow the path. Very important point for all of us that we cannot force anyone. We cannot even force our children because this is an internal thing. So we have to present the Quranic message very logically based on reason and evidence all around us. And then leave it to individuals and give them time, give them books, let them follow their own choice. And once they have made a choice that whether they wish to follow this path or not, we should be contented with that. This means that whoever has accepted Iman and decided to follow the path of the Quran should understand this aspect very well because it is related to the human psyche. And which also means that we should individually understand that have we accepted Iman under any external compulsion, or we have accepted it through our own choice because we were looking for guidance. And when we read through this guidance, we said, this is for me. In relation to guidance, we should bear in mind that we simply cannot tread on two paths at the same time. For example, if we wish to go north, we cannot go south at the same time. In psychological terms, this is also applicable to ourselves. That is, we can't have two choices in our mind at the same time that like the man-made system and at the same time think that we have acquired Iman and we are going for the man-made system. And over here we have to be very vigilant and very aware of it that it does not mean that we don't earn our living within the man-made system. Our earning is related to our physical side, that we want to meet the needs of our physical body. But this is a psychological thing that we should come to terms with the negative sides of the man-made system and then think of the humanity at large and then work for the system of deen. And it's a very internal thing. And we have gone through this aspect previously as well. This is the reason that the Quran declares, Wallahu la yahdil qawm az-zalimeen. There are a number of verses on this aspect. Allah does not guide those people who commit injustices. This means that people need to be ready to abandon wrongdoing and first understand the need for guidance and then progress on this path of righteousness. So we can't call ourselves be on Allah's guidance at the same time we keep doing wrong within the man-made system. We have to give up all injustices and wrongs wherever is possible so that we come to the path of the system of deen wholeheartedly, fully committed. And for that, Quran gives the recipe of Iman and Amal Saleh, that we should bring out our best, that is our latent potentials, should be manifested in the outer world. And people who are doing wrong, and when we give them message, we ourselves will see that those people will seldom come to the Quran. They will not be even willing to listen anything about the Quran. They will not like it because they are doing wrong. And what wrong does is it puts an impediment within our psyche. We feel some kind of a disgust, some kind of a guilt, some kind of impediment towards accepting what the message is telling us. And this is an observed phenomenon. That is why Quran says, Wallahu la yahdil qawm az-zalimeen. Only those who seek guidance will receive it. Another aspect is of accountability. When we say Allah provides guidance, it means that Allah has noted the guidance within the Quran. Therefore, whoever wishes to seek guidance, he needs to approach the Quran with the aim of seeking guidance. If we study the Quran with this aim in mind, then we will see this aspect clearly before us. For example, Quran says, وَلَقَدْ جَاءَهُم مِّن رَبِّهِمُ الْهُدَى. Surely the guidance from their Rabb has come to them. There are a number of verses on this aspect. Since man is accountable for each of his deeds, the procedure and process of accountability needs to be made clear to him so that he can take advantage of this knowledge and avoid the pitfalls of life. The loftiest goal with minimum wastage of time. The universe has been created with the purpose, and we have gone through this verse as well. Allah created the heavens and the earth as al-haq, so that each self is recompensed for its deeds and none is treated unjustly. Since human life has two aspects, i.e. physical plus self, this law is applicable to both these. So law of requital is applicable to both, that is law of cause and effect. The kind of physical life of man which he creates in this world, he will obtain the outcomes related to these physical laws. While living this physical life, the kind of self he creates and develops within himself will decide his place in the life of the hereafter. In fact, this second aspect will affect every part of his life in this world as well, because it affects his decision making. The self created according to relative values will be different from the self created under the domain of the permanent values. The choice is left to man to opt for whichever path of life he sees fit. Some verses on this aspect. In terms of seeking guidance, the Quran has cast light on this in a number of verses. And we have gone through this verse previously. وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَىٰ. We found you wandering, looking for guidance. We gave you guidance. In another place about the wife of Pharaoh. And this is something which escaped my attention previously, but this time I looked at it in more detail. وَضَرَبَ اللَّهُ مَثَلًا لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا امْرَأَتَ فِرْعَوْنَ إِذْ قَالَتْ رَبِّ هَبْ لِي عِندَكَ بَيْتًا فِي الْجَنَّةِ وَنَجِّنِي مِنْ فِرْعَوْنَ وَعَمَلِهِ وَنَجِّنِي مِنَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. And Allah sets forth as an example of those who accept Iman, the wife of Pharaoh. Behold, she said, O my Rabb, build for me in nearness to you a mansion in Jannat, and save me from Pharaoh and his doings, and save me from those who commit injustices. And this supports that point which we have already said, that Allah does not guide who are zalim, who are doing injustices. So over here again the procedure is given. What she said is that, O my Rabb, build for me in nearness to you a mansion in Jannat, and save me from Pharaoh and his doings. That is, that the system of Taghut established by Pharaoh, she showed her aversion to that. And she said, I'm not happy in that. And she is then praying to, supplicating to Allah as Rabb, that you guide me. And this is interesting because anyone at any stage can do that. Notice the rejection of Taghut as a precondition for the acceptance of Iman. About the messenger Ibrahim, Quran says, وَقَالَ إِنِّي ذَاهِبٌ إِلَىٰ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينِ. And he said, I will go to my Rabb. He will soon guide me. And we know it from other parts of the Quran that he was in search of guidance and what challenges he faced on the path leading towards Deen, where he rejected his religion, which he inherited from his parents and from the people, and then he stood up against them. And then he migrated and left that place. In the case of the messenger Musa, Quran says, Qala Rabbuna allazi ataha kulla shay'in khalqahu summa hada. And this is an interesting conversation which messenger had with Pharaoh. He, that is the messenger Musa, said to Pharaoh, our Rabb is he who gave to each created thing its form and further gave guidance. And obviously the messenger himself was looking for guidance. That is why with conviction he could tell Pharaoh that I have been guided and I have come with this guidance towards yourself. Now next is, why do human beings need guidance? Over here I put down 3 slides just to see and argue that why do we need guidance? This question arises in some minds and needs a rational evidence-based answer. By possessing desires and emotions, it is obvious that each one of us wishes to maximize his own happiness and minimize his own pain in his life. However, we witness in the world of 2025 that this creates imbalances by those who selfishly accumulate more than their needs. They acquire power as a consequence of this accumulation and then unleash their tyranny on the majority. Because people who acquire wealth, then they wish to follow their own desires. And the problem with unbridled desires is that human beings then start desiring power. And we can see that happening in today's world, that the people who have somehow acquired a lot of wealth, now they are trying to extend their reach towards controlling most of the public or most of the people in the world. The Quran has pointed to this state of the human world in many places. For example, this verse, which we have gone through previously as well, Inna Firauna ala fil ardi wa ja'ala ahlaha shiyan yastad'ifu ta'ifatam minhum yuzabbihu abnahum wa yastahyi nisahum innahu kana minal mufsidin. Pharaoh exalted himself through transgression in the land and broke up its people into parties to strengthen his power. And we know one of the relative values of man-made system is to divide and rule, or divide and conquer, making one party weaker and weaker, that is Bani Israel. For that, his policy was that he will make those people ineffective who had some potentials of strength by humiliating them, and those who lacked those potentials, he used to bring them up and promote them. So over here, these wordings, which we take literally, which means that he used to kill their boys and leave their women alive, we have to take it metaphorically, that what he was doing was, and we can relate it to the word of today, that all those sycophants people promote to the top who are bootlickers, and while those who are strong and who stand up against the government, they suppress them. In this way, by creating imbalances in the nation, he will keep weakening their strength. And this is the same strategy, same tactic, which is used by powerful people in the world, and we are experiencing it as well in the world of 2025. The Quran also stated that Inna ja'alna ma alal arde zinatan laha linabluwahum ayyuhum asanu amala. And this is a very basic point which we should understand, and we have gone over it previously as well. There is no harm in repeating it, that this world which is created around us, it is made very attractive. And we have to figure out that which things are good for us and which are not. There are certain things which are good for our physical existence, but the same things, the way we use them may not be good for our self-development. And this is where the Quranic guidance comes and plays its role. Whatever is on planet Earth, we have made it attractive for the inhabitants living on it, so that it becomes evident from its use who it is that adopts the path of balance and proportion. This is in reality the path of balance and beauty in life. So this is the way we should look at the world, that all these attractions which draw our attention of our desires, we should look at them and see that how can we make use of them for the good of whole of mankind rather than accumulating it into few hands. Now, next slide is, why do human beings need guidance? Continuing the same. We therefore need to understand, using our intellect and reasoning potentials, that this life of ours does not end with our physical death. And that is an important aspect for us to keep in mind, that I am here for finite time. One day I will disappear. For example, nowadays people live from, let's say, 80 to about 95 or 100. That means in the next 100 years, there will be a totally new generation residing in this world. So with that finite physical existence, we have to question the wider aspects of our life and look at our aim of life, and then look at the Quranic guidance, that how it is guiding us in terms of spending a better life here and then going on to the next life and be part of that system of deen which Allah has already established over there. If it was meant to end with physical death, then we could go on living life as we wished. But this does not fit into the higher purpose for which the universe has been created, and the Quran points to this fact repeatedly. Regarding death and human accountability, it has made it clear that kullu nafsin zaiqatul maut wa innama tuwaffawna ajurakum yawmal qiyamati faman zuhziha anin nari wa udkhila al jannata faqad faza wa mal hayatud dunya illa mata'ul ghurur. Every self shall have a taste of death, and on the day of judgment shall you be paid your full recompense. Why wait for the day of judgment? Because up to our physical death, we have been given total choice. We can decide the way we wish to live our life. Even we can decide how to die. For example, if we wish to commit suicide, we can always end our life earlier. But over here, Quran says that once yourself enters the next life, that will be your day of judgment, because in whatever condition that self is, when you leave this life after death, you will rise up exactly with the same self in the next life. Only he who is saved far from the fire and admitted to Jannah will have achieved success. And this is the beauty of it, that they will have achieved success through their own deeds. For the life of this world is but goods and chattels of deception. And over here, Quran very clearly says that life is mata. Mata means which is temporary. Life is a journey. Only carry those things along with you, material things which you need to live this life amicably and in a pleasant and successful manner. And gurur means not to be deceived by material things, that you forget to develop your own self. There's another verse which I've taken from Surah Al Imran to make it further clear. Quran says, "Yujina linnase hubbu shahawate minan nasai wal banina wal kanatir al mukantarate min az-zahabi wal fiddate wal khayl al musawwamate wal anami wal harse. Zalika mata'ul hayati dunya wallahu indahu husnul ma'ab." Over here again, I have highlighted mata'ul hayatud dunya. Exactly the same word mata has appeared over here as well. Quran draws our attention to the temporariness of our physical existence in this world. And as students of the Quran, we should keep that in mind all the time. Fear in the eyes of mankind is the love of things they covet. And over here, the translation is women and sons. But if we look at it, I was talking to Dr. Manzoor Malik from one of our members, and he was of the view that we can look at it more closely, because Nisa could also mean, again, over here in the previous verse, we know under Pharaoh, Nisa means those who are weak, who are not very determined. And Banin, I was looking at its root, it also means building structures. But it comes to the same meaning, that we should not be distracted by the material things of this life. We should keep higher purpose of life in our mind. Heaped up hoards of gold and silver, horses branded, and cattle and well-tilled land. For example, if the verses were revealed now, instead of horses branded, might have been buildings and cars and those kind of technology. Such are the possessions of this worldly life, and Quran calls it mata. But what is with Allah is the best of goals. So Quran is not forbidding us from acquiring these things and utilizing them in this world. But what Quran is saying is that to keep that aspect in mind for which you are created, that is to create your own new life within you, so that you live this life prosperously and successfully, and then go on to the next life. And take into account the whole of mankind. The world becomes very ugly if there are millions of yatim and miskeen around, and some people are controlling them and enjoying and concentrating all wealth into their hands, whereas they can easily redistribute it and live a far happier life free from fear and huzn. So that is what Quran is asking us to do. But Allah is not interfering in our working in this world. The Quran is asking Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen to rise up and work on His behalf. Continuing on the same theme, for the creation and fulfillment of physical desires that is without guidance, we do not need the hereafter. Simply conform to the man-made systems, and the more we acquire materially, we define this as being success. And we know it. We can ask anyone who is not exposed to the guidance of the Quran that what is his definition of success. They will talk about all material things and will never even mention their self, hereafter, and the Quranic guidance. The Quran draws our attention to the existence of another important entity within us called nafs. The definition of success presented by the Quran is وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَقُولُ رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. And it is like a supplication presented to us by the Quran. And that way beautifully explains to man. So the Quran in this supplication, for example, is teaching us that how to look at our life and existence in this world. And there are human beings who say, our Rabb, see again, starting from Rabb, that is a part of system of Rububiyyat, give us good in this world and good in the hereafter and save us from the torment of fire. And those who pray, supplicate like that, then they get up and start doing it by coming together. We have seen through study of these permanent values that by not knowing them, we lack knowledge. Firstly, about the existence of ourself and its accountability. Secondly, we then only have one choice in life, i.e. to live life under the relative values of man-made systems. And that is very important, that the people who are living life without the guidance of the Quran simply either not aware of this choice or have ignored this choice. Thirdly, we live life with this assumption that our life ends with physical death. And it's a terrible assumption because this life is very finite, 70, 80, 90 years, whereas the life of the hereafter is an eternal life. And it is not wise to consign oneself to a perpetual life of stagnation and inertia. Fourthly, all those latent potentials with which we are endowed as a result of being human will remain dormant and undeveloped. Fifthly, we will fail to create that new life with the help of these potentials to which the Quran draws our attention and which are placed within easy reach. Because by following the guidance of the Quran, this life of ours also becomes prosperous, successful, and a happier. And we know what is coming. And we also know how this system is working and who is creating problems. And all that uncertainty, doubts, suspicions, conjectures become disappeared. Sixthly, if despite complaining against the evils and injustices of the man-made systems, we fail to recognize that the system of Deen is placed within our reach through the guidance of the Quran, then we will fail to take advantage of this option. This leads to living life under the man-made systems without knowing the second option. This then means that we leave this life not even being aware of the presence of this additional choice within us and to us collectively. Now over here I have drawn a schematic which was in my head for a long time, but I was not sure how to create one. So finally I have managed and made this effort, and let's share it. Relationship of I with its possessions, the importance of seeking guidance. There's a human being who is questioning, my I has two choices, end life with death or I goes forward. So I've been given a choice that whether I wish to end my life with death and have nothing in the hereafter, or I have a choice to continue beyond or my physical death. I consist of I plus physical body. So this is a statement of fact in the light of the Quran that I consist of two parts. First is my I, which makes decisions and controls my body as well. Then I have a body which has its own needs. I possess a home. Just concentrate on my house, my car, my family, my friends, my possessions, my teams, and my wealth. And all these are mata'ul hayat dunya, that is, I have to get through this life. I need them. All those possessions prefixed with my and mine will be left behind at the time of physical death. And this is a fact. If we see a dead body, it hasn't taken any of these things with it. Even body is left behind. So my body is also left behind. So it is only I which will go forward. So we end up in a funeral. Physical death is a fact of life. A coffin awaits everybody. It doesn't matter whether body is burnt or not. That is not an issue. Issue is that we are going to die one day, and all of these my and mine will be left behind. Self tastes death. my body left behind. After the death of the physical body, only I goes forward, whatever it has become. The next life will commence in whatever state it left the world. So over here, we have to make a decision that what kind of a life I want in the hereafter, whether the life which is excitingly and progressively going forward, or because I have lost my body now and all those things behind, I can do nothing because myself hasn't developed. It's that simple. Did I create a new life? And that is the question we should ask in the light of the Quran. And I've just drawn a dotted figure over here just to call it new life. Sometimes we feel that as if our thoughts cannot come together and create a new life. And that is a big mistake we are making. We are dealing with Allah and divine energy which is given to us. All those thoughts can accumulate. And in this world, we put all those our voices and our pictures into, save them into hard drives and into recorders. But over here, whatever we are doing, that is becoming an invisible new life of ours, which has its own existence. The Quran helps to create a new self and then provides guidance to develop it. A developed self, thus acquired through Iman plus solid deeds, knows its state before the death of the physical body. And we can figure it out right here in the light of the Quran if we are working through acquiring Iman and solid deeds, that our inner surety, our inner certainty becomes an evidence for us that my life is going to be successful in the life of the hereafter as well. And the results appear right over here because by coming together, we present an evidence that we have managed to overcome that inner inertia, that inner resistance of ours, and we have come together. And the Quran says, لَيُنذِرَ مَنْ كَانَ حَيًّا وَيَحِقَّ الْقَوْلُ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ, that it may provide admonishment to those who are alive and that the charge is proved against those who do kufr. So Quran is a warning. It's for those who wish to remain alive, who want to continue beyond their physical death. Let us see what the Quran tells us about the world of 2025. About Adam, it states, Qalu atajalu fiha man yufsidu fiha wa yasfiku dima. Malaika replied, will you place therein one who will make mischief and shed blood? We have gone through this verse previously as well, but it is good to reiterate it just to make sure that we understand it, its implications in this world. That the way man was created, Malaika, the universal forces, pointed it out in a metaphorical style that this man will create, Adam will create fasad, that is chaos, and will shed blood in the world. And we see plenty of its evidence in the world of today. All the imbalances, wars, conflicts, civil wars, and parties and strife, and all these going on in the world, in more or less in every part of the planet. In another place, it is summed by stating, ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعض الذي عملوا لعلهم يرجعون. Mischief has appeared on land and sea because of the actions of human hands, that Allah may give them a taste of some of their deeds in order that they may return. And over here, when Quran says لعلهم يرجعون, that is through their mistakes, they might realize that they have adopted the wrong path. Or maybe the Muslims who have the Quran can warn those who are doing wrong that don't do it, because our book says that the consequences will be terrible in the longer run. Then warned about unbridled minds and their conduct when in power. And we can go through this verse under Surah Bani Israel, which we covered in a presentation. I will go through its meaning. We are aware what kinds of tactics you Iblis will employ to misguide them from the right path. That is, this is from the side of Iblis, that what he is going to do towards human beings, that is the unbridled desires of human beings and power, what they will do to others. You will remove some from their position by misleading them through propaganda alone. And this is happening in terms of manufacturing concept. The media manipulates human raw minds and those who are not guided, and makes them follow their desires. You will assault with your great armies, such armies in which cavalry and infantry will all be included. Media in itself is a big army which is assaulting everyone through its propaganda. At some places, you will start to provide them with financial aid and will include them in your commerce. And we can see all these NGOs and charities and foreign aid and everything which is manipulating people's opinions and affecting others in a negative way. And in this way, through economic control, will make them your companions in your ideology. This whole IMF and World Bank business is part of this manipulation. At some places, you will open such academic institutions through which their future generations will automatically adopt your colors. And we see that is happening. The modern education system will never talk about values. It talks about how to get success in the man-made system. You will make great and lofty promises to them, though your promises will all be based on deception. So what happens is, again, the word Gurur has appeared over here, and Shaitan over here, which means the human unbridled desires, that this is all a self-deception. In the shorter run, some people might benefit, but in the longer run, it takes to bigger disasters. Allah then warned the Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen, وَاتَّقُوا فِتْنَةً لَا تُصِيبَنَّ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا مِنْكُمْ خَاصَّةً وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ شَدِيدُ الْعِقَابِ. And Quran said that if you do not do Amiruna bil Maruf wa Nahyan al Munkar, that is, you will not forbid evil in the word, then what will happen is, and fear fitna, which affects not only those who do wrong, and know that Allah is strict in punishment, that what will happen is that the evil will spread gradually. And what is happening in today's world is because there is no Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen, there is no system of deen anywhere. Next slide is verifying guidance when acquired. And this is another aspect. It is not enough for Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen to acquire guidance themselves. Once the system is established, then they have to check it, judge others, because people, so that there is a clear line of demarcation between the two ideologies, and people should not become or portray as Mu'mineen and then are not. And as a result, they harm the system. The Quran has mentioned the attributes of the Mu'mineen in various verses, and those who become part of the Jamaat-e-Mu'mineen are asked to identify those who are not committed to the cause of Allah, like a physician who takes a medical history from patient in order to diagnose the ailment. Mu'mineen also need to lay down the procedure in the light of the Quran, and help should be provided to those who wish to be part of this path called Sirat-e-Mustaqim. Regarding hypocrites, guidance is provided. وَلَوْ نَشَاءُ لَا أَرَيْنَكَهُمْ فَلَا عَرَفْتَهُمْ بِسِيمَاهُمْ وَلَا تَعْرِفَنَّهُمْ فِي اللَّحْنِ الْقَوْلِ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ أَعْمَالَكُمْ. Had we so willed, we could have shown them up to you. So the Quran says, that is, Allah says that we could have told you about these munafiqeen, but we will not tell you. Because the principle is that if we tell you, then we will have to tell everyone who comes after you. So the principle is that you figure it out yourself. And it's very easy, because if one has acquired Iman, then one can very easily find out whether others have acquired Iman or not. And then we can also find out whether they want to harm those who have acquired Iman or not. And you should have known them by their marks. But surely you will know them by the tone of their speech, and Allah knows all that you do. And when Quran says that Allah knows all that you do, it means that we should also make an effort to know it, what Allah knows. It is not something which is left to Allah and then keep sitting and doing supplications. Not at all. It is our duty to do what Allah does, that is to find out what is going on in this world. In another verse, Ya ayyuhan nabiyyu iza ja'aka al-mu'minatu yubayyinaka ala an la yushrikunna billahi shay'in wa la yasrikunna wa la yaznina wa la yaqtulna awladahunna wa la yatina bi buhtanin yaftarinahu bayna aydihinna wa arjulihinna wa la yasinaka fi ma'rufin wa ba'ayyihunna wastaghfir lahunna Allah. Inna Allaha Ghafurur Rahim. O Nabi, when women come to you to take an oath of fealty to you that they will not commit shirk with Allah, and this is applicable to those women who migrated from Mecca to Medina, but it is also in general sense that we should keep in mind, and that they will not steal, that they will not commit zina, that they will not kill their children, that they will not utter slander, intentionally forging falsehood, and that they will not disobey you in any just matter. And that is beautifully noted over here, Maruf, that even in the case of Nabi, only those things are to be followed which are meeting the criterion laid down by the Quran. Not that the messenger was going to do anything wrong for that matter, but over here, messenger as the center of authority of the system of deen, this procedure has to be followed, which is assuming that all those who are running the system, they are pure, brilliant Jamaat-e-Momineen. Then do you receive their fealty and supplicate to Allah for protection, for Allah is Ghafoor and Rahim. And this is applicable to both men and women. We should keep this in mind, that when Quran says about men, it is applicable to women as well, and vice versa, because it is about maintaining the integrity and peace in the society. Once the system of deen is established, a formal procedure will need to be laid down for this through mutual consultation, that is to work out the sub-clauses for that. It is not that if somebody declares that I'm a Muslim and you just accept them at a face value. They have to go through a certain procedure, and there has to be a criteria. Under the man-made system, it is fine because there is no system of deen. But those who are aspiring to establish that system of deen, they must apply it to their own selves first. A few more verses related to guidance. Those seeking guidance, when they come to the Quran, it further guides them by saying, Allazina yastami'una al-qawla fayattabi'una ahsana ulaika allazina hadahumullahu wa ulaika hum ulul albab. Those who listen to the word and follow the best in it, and the word husn is used, they are the ones whom Allah has guided, and they are the ones endued with understanding. And this was suggested by our eminent member, Dr. Manzoor Malik, and I thought to include it as well as a slide. Another verse supplements what is noted here. وَاتَّبِعُوا أَحْسَنَ مَا أُنزِلَ عَلَيْكُم مِّن رَّبِّكُم مِّن قَبْلِ أَن يَأْتِيَكُمُ الْعَذَابُ بَغْتَةً وَأَنتُمْ لَا تَشْعُرُونَ. And follow the best revealed to you from your Rabb before the penalty comes on you of a sudden while you perceive not. And this is the beauty over here, La Tasharun. A lot of things in our life happen without our knowing about it, and we become surprised. Quran is warning us in advance that nothing surprising should come to you if you follow the Quran and its value system. These two verses put emphasis on this aspect, that after learning about the guidance of the Quran, to not become static and start to suffer from inertia, thinking that I have plenty of time. Instead, to capitalize on this conviction and bring out your best by doing solid deeds which restore the balance of humanity. And of course, your own balance first. That is, when we follow this path, our own balance becomes better and better with the passage of time. We strengthen our own resolve on this path. By noting the term Ulul Albab, it is also made clear that on this path called Sirat-e-Mustaqim, after opening one door, we will find another one, and then another one. And these doors will keep opening in this life as well as in the life of the hereafter. It should add a bit of excitement within us that I want to know more what Allah has laid down for me, for us, in this life as well as in the life of the hereafter. This process will continue at the self's level unabated if we keep striving together on this path. By addressing the messenger, the Quran has made the relevance of these verses to the establishment of the system of deen crystal clear. We cannot live in an isolated island of individuality, benefiting from the economic prosperity of the man-made system, and by reciting the Quranic verses, thus satisfying ourselves, while imbalances in the world keep multiplying around us 24/7. And now we come to the last slide of today's presentation. Finally, some points of interest on the path of seeking guidance of the Quran. To become dissatisfied with the man-made systems and their effects on the ordinary man's daily life, individual as well as collective. Inquiring around from others, questioning existing religious, cultural, social, political, and economic practices within the society in which one finds himself or herself, just like the wife of Pharaoh. Reading widely to understand the issues and to identify the purpose of human creation and different viewpoints. And over here, Tolu Islam can provide extensive help. That is, the literature is available with Tolu Islam. Coming to the Quran and then questioning its contents and its claim of providing guidance to mankind. Acquiring conviction by studying the Quran over a period of time, and it takes many years. It is not a 1 year or 2 years thing because we have to gather evidence. Human beings take some time to convince themselves. And at the same time, going through the available evidence in the world to reach the conclusion that mankind simply cannot be at peace with itself without deen. Finally, since Tolu Islam is the only movement in the world which aims to spread the message of the Quran as the system of deen, hence to join it wholeheartedly. Remembering that verse 103 of Surah Al-Imran, hold fast to the rope of Allah and be not divided. So united that our hearts and minds provide evidence for this. Thanks for your time and for sharing this today. Please feel free to share it with your contacts. You may like to subscribe for future talks related to the Quranic system of Deen.